Folks, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but the show is live. As I was going to mention at the front end of the show, there's going to be a new technical things happening in the back end, and the video's suddenly not working for no obvious reason. So give me just a moment, and we'll get this fixed. All right, folks, I hope this worked. So I'm going to have to do some extra bullshit on the back end here, so give me just a moment. Hopefully you can both see and hear me now. That would be splendid. And I think I know what has occurred, so we will try and avoid this situation as we continue to evolve the technology here. So, welcome everybody to the Counter Clipping Show. This is Counter Clipping number 273. I of course lost my notes. Because I rebooted the computer, so hold on a second here. For June 8th, 2026, and I'd like to thank everybody for stopping by this evening. We're going to talk about naval war games, and this is not an area in which I have any particular knowledge or experience of note. But I have played a couple, and I've got some of those, and I've got some that I don't own and haven't played that are of note. But what I would specifically like people to do is recommend in the chat their favorite naval war games. So everybody get on that. Well, I get the show started here. We're gonna pop this out, and so we are not. Here's the big technical change. Let me talk about that in a minute, actually. Once again, welcome everybody to the show. I would like to encourage you to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. If you would like to support the channel, there's a bunch of ways to do that, linked in the video description. In particular, the Patreon. A big shout out to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair. We would not be able to continue doing all this stuff if it were not for both the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair and our esteemed sponsor, Noble Knight Games, from whom we will be hearing pretty soon. I'm going to actually have a problem with that tonight. I didn't set the clip up, so oops. We got the new intro and outro clips set up. We had some monetization problems with the old stuff, so we had to get rid of it. The music that you heard during the introduction is not necessarily going to stay. We might end up switching that up once I find something that I think is cooler. So the big technical change here is we're running this stream unlike the last 2 or 3 years worth of streams directly through OBS. That does mean that some of the back end looks a lot different. The ticker, for example, is kind of its own setup thing in StreamYard. On the other hand, we've gotten some good ideas already here, actually, in the chat. So everything should work. I have lost, at least for tonight, I have lost the ability to do visual aids I can do it through OBS, but my way of doing it through OBS is going to take triple or quadruple the amount of prep time I have to do for the show, and I'm unwilling to do that. So I will be looking at other options over the course of the week, and hopefully this one works out. I've also lost the ability to highlight comments, but I'm going to be looking at that as well. There's some really good suggestions going here. So to get us started, though, we are clipping once again 1914 Twilight in the East. I'm going to move some screens around here. I'll do it this way, I think. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, so we'll stick with that. We're doing everything once again through OBS this evening. We've got some great suggestions already. Victory in the Pacific, I see. Corvette Command and Atlantic Sentinels. Corvette Command I'm not familiar with, but Atlantic Sentinels is a solitaire game. Jeff Beeler mentions Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts, which is a PC thing. I'm not sure if it's available on any other platform, but you can definitely play it on a computer. We've seen the Avalon Hill Bismarck mentioned, and of course, my number one's, based on relatively limited expertise in naval games, quite frankly. My favorite naval game is indeed Flat Top, just to get that out there. But before we get into the topic, I do have a little anecdote. This is the situation that resulted in the cancellation of last night's chit show, which is unfortunate. But we will be back next week with very special guest John Krantz. So that's going to be fantastic to talk to John. I mean, I've met John before, and he's a great guy. But to get him on the show finally after all this time, so we'll be doing that. I've got a video scheduled for Thursday, which is an unboxing of the new edition of Ace of Aces. As you can tell, my notes were not great for this week, but at least I had something. Yesterday, Fucko comes for a visit with his fiancée, who is a delightful woman, and I have no idea why she has agreed to marry that man. But that aside, I've got I've actually got 2 out-of-commission toilets here in the house right now, and I know this is going to be, we're encroaching on Dan's turf here with this. He said, "Oh yeah, I'll help you fix it. It's no problem." So we get to, he comes in and we do all the greetings and introductions and stuff, and we go up and look at one of the toilets, and he's like, "Okay, yeah, we'll go out to the hardware store, get this, and that," and that should be enough. I'm pretty sure this is just a seal, no problem. So we get back with the supplies. We show up. I'm turning the water off from the controls in the basement. Right, it's right around the corner. The water's still going, and we're going, "What the fuck's happening here? I don't know what's happening." So I start turning other nozzles off, at which there's like a octopus-like pipe situation down here, right outside this wall. So I'm turning random stuff off, and he's like, "It's still coming up here where the toilet is." And I'm like, "I don't know what's going on. So I'm like, "All right." So we finally got the tank is drained. So the water, we're on well water here. So the tank finally drains, and we start being able to work on the toilet. So, we unhook some stuff and hook it back up, and the toilet's off, and power wash the toilet and all that jazz. So I go back downstairs to turn the water on, and I'm turning all the things on overhead things that I turned off before, after turning on the main itself. And suddenly I'm like, "What the fuck? Why is all this water pouring from my ceiling?" So we turn the water off again, and this is again out here where the octopus is, and I have no idea what has happened. We have a flexible steel piece of line that's running to something, but nobody knows what. It's not the sink. It's not the dishwasher. It's not the other sink. It's not the toilet. It's not the ice maker in the fridge. And it, I guess, could be running upstairs to an upstairs restroom, but we checked all those too. So no idea. So that thing's turned off right now. We'll figure it out. But in any case, yes, I do believe, Manders, that it is Dan's fucking toilet maloika that created this problem in the first place. So we're really blaming Dan here, and not Fucko, who was being very helpful and was the correct amount of concerned when water started running into the basement. I don't know what the hell it is. Neither is it the outdoor faucet, because that works. Everything works fine and with this thing turned off. So it's turned off. Nothing's leaking now. It's not a huge deal, but I'm annoyed. So that was and this is like at this point, it's like 6 o'clock. We've already run back to the hardware store 3 times, and he's like, "Oh, let's go back to the Lowe's before it closes." No, fuck you. I don't want to go back to Lowe's. We've been to Lowe's 3 times already. A lot of the suggestions mentioned in the chat here are indeed the things that we thought of at the time, and nobody has any idea where this fucking thing goes. So we'll figure that out in due time. In the meantime, everything's working, and there isn't water coming from the ceiling in the basement. So we got that ironed out. Anyway, that's the funny anecdote. I will probably continue to elaborate on this story to highlight both the maloika that Dan put on me, as well as Fucko's level of technical competence. However, he was kind enough to drop off this excellent bottle from which we are libating this evening of Glenmorangie 12-year-old. This is the standard expression of Glenmorangie. I really like this stuff. It's got a lot of citrusine type notes. Is there any peat to this at all? I don't think so. Maybe a tiny amount, but peat's usually the thing. Was like you either taste it or you don't. And I'm not really tasting it in this stuff. Now, so this is matured in bourbon casks, ex-bourbon casks, and is bottled at a minimally acceptable 43%. It is excellent. Thank you very much. And thank you for the help with the toilet. I'm glad that in a couple of days I will have a working toilet. There is, it turns out, an additional supply line that runs to the toilet that needs to also be replaced. And that's the thing I balked at going to the hardware store for the fourth time on. So, in any event... everything is fine now. We did not have a guest lined up, so I did not have to feel like an asshole. That would have been much less practical had we had a guest lined up. So we got John Krantz this coming Sunday. And we've got a couple additional videos going along. So Boomerman Dan Webb is drinking Bruichladdich, the drink that makes you more Scottish every time you say it. I'm pretty sure that's why I'm like 30% Scottish now, because I said Bruichladdich enough times. So Rule the Waves 3, I would really kind of like to take a look at that. I'm going to start talking about... let's see. This is actually not why. So this also means that Twitch is at least for the moment, not a destination to which we will be streaming this show. Which also does mean that we will have to pay less attention to Nimrods coming in from Twitch and posting spam links in the chat, because Twitch does not block that appropriately. YouTube does, but that feature is just as annoying as a lot letting everything through like Twitch does. So I can hop over to Twitch and block people, but I'm like in the middle of a show when that happens, and I'm like, fuck it, just kill Twitch, and that's that. So we're not going to be doing that. In the meantime, on to tonight's topic. Why is my... All right, we're rearranging windows again here, because like I said, new technical base here tonight. So, history of the Chit Show, there is a surprising amount of toilet content. You are absolutely right, and that is almost entirely Dan's fault. We blame Dan, which I do not have a fancy Vitamix toilet, so it's just a regular toilet. And now it is mounted, and sealed and all that jazz. And sometime, possibly tomorrow, I'll run out to the hardware store again and pick up that supply line that I needed. It's going to cost like $10. So we're all going okay here. Anyway, tune in next week, says Scott Bell, for Toilet Repair that'll be episode number 2, actually. Ooh, nice. Perfidious Albion mentioned, so talking about naval war games, I think I've played... By my reckoning, I've played 5 different naval war games. And I'm talking about games that focus on naval and not something like Pacific War, which is a lot of naval, but there's always also a ground war and all that. So I'm don't really want to talk about that. And of course, not everything here is going to be World War II, right? There are a number of pretty interesting looking... Dave from Wisconsin asks if Africa Corps has rules for latrines, and it does not, but I will have to check on Campaign for North Africa to see if it has rules for latrines. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of traditional for home repair things to require multiple trips to the hardware store. That is absolutely true. Neil Badke mentions SPI's Task Force, which I haven't even mentioned. It didn't even occur to me to put it on the list. And Jeffrey Turner mentions the Victory Games Fleet series, which is another good one. I've never played any of those, and I didn't own any of them back in the day. But looking to the limited extent that I've looked at the Victory Games Fleet games, since my return to Wargaming, it looks like a pretty cool game system to me. Of course, there's things like Harpoon, which I know has been mentioned in the chat. Christophe de Klerk mentions Carrier Battle Philippines Sea, which is based on the old Victory Games Carrier system, which is another one that I haven't played. I've got Tokyo Express, but not Carrier. Oh dear, Molotov cockatiel broke a toilet. Yeah, we didn't do that. As Craig Alexander points out, we are due a new printing of War Galley from GMT. It's now, is it on P? It is on P500. It's got, I'm gonna have a bunch of extra stuff in it too, which is pretty good. And Danny Zachary mentions broadsides and boarding parties, which I would 100% count here. Although, you know, for what it is, I think it's actually quite a nice game. I did play that back in the day. It wasn't even on my list, so I guess I have played 6 naval war games by whatever definition I'm applying this evening. Flat Top, Second World War at Sea, Wooden Ships and Iron Men, Flying Colors, Close Action, Victory in the Pacific. I have not actually played War at Sea. I don't have War at Sea, nor have I played any of the revised versions of those that have popped up. The biggest and probably most impressive of which is probably Admiral's War from... I forget who published that, actually. Yeah, I actually already got the notification that War Galley has made the cut already. And I know they've been working, that's been in the cooker for a while. So I'm not particularly surprised that hasn't been in print for a long time. And, you know, if I'm also, as someone who had, what the hell is that? For some reason, there's a binder clip on the floor. Oh, Andrew Detterer mentions the broadsides from the American Heritage Games from Milton Bradley back in like the 60s or 50s or whatever that was. I have seen that auctioned off, but I have never actually examined any of those games in any way. By the time that opportunity had arisen, I was firmly entrenched in hex and counter stuff along the lines of what we would see from companies like Avalon Hill or SPI or GMT or whoever. Somebody has also mentioned the Red Sash series, which I really kind of want to check out what Red Sash Games has going on there. It's pretty interesting. And Rob Taylor mentioned Compass's Victory at Sea, which is a redo of War at Sea. And there's also the Kaiser's War, the Kaiser's Navy, or Kaiser's Grand Sea Fleet from Gilbert Collins and Columbia Games. And that is a game in that sort of same family as War at Sea, but for World War I, which is intriguing. There's also, yes, that's actually true, and I didn't have time to, I had things going on. Canvas Temple Publishing, thank you Vince Ree and anyone else who has mentioned that previously. Also, folks, I'll point out that I'm on a new chat interface tonight, so super chats and super stickers are on if you want to get your comment highlighted, and I'm guaranteed to reply to it if you do. L2's Grand Fleet, hadn't thought of that one. The GBACW event in Harper's Ferry is happening this weekend, too. That's actually pretty awesome. No, it's Canvas Temple. As soon as somebody said it, I'm like, oh, yeah. Because I've never really seen anything else from them. And as Drew points out, many naval games, but not all, run on some kind of limited intelligence or hidden information. Certainly Pacific War does. I would go so far as to say that it is probably, unless you're in like a training exercise where you're trying to learn the game, I would say that probably Pacific War doesn't solitaire well once you get past at least the battle scenarios. And Danny says that Bill at Compass says we're going to get Jutland sooner rather than later, so that's cool. Ironclads is also another one that was mentioned. That was 3W or Excalibur Games or something like that. Great War at Sea 2. Danners, thank you for mentioning that. I mentioned Second World War at Sea, which is the one I have, but I don't have any of the Great War at Sea stuff. Which is... Brad says that Canvas Temple is shutting down, which I hadn't heard, but I should probably pay more attention to Tuesday Newsday over on the Armchair Dragoons site. Yaquinto, yeah, that's absolutely right. That was Yaquinto. I never owned or really even looked at it. Just honestly, like most of Yaquinto's output back in the day, the only Yaquinto game I have owned... I might be wrong about this, but I think the only Yaquinto thing that I ever owned was Man, Myth, and Magic, their RPG, sort of historical fantasy-ish RPG. I wasn't really sure what to make of it at the time. I'd kind of like to have a look at it again, but it is long gone. Jason W. mentions Volko's upcoming Race to Rabal, which looks very promising, not because it's Race to Rabal, but because Volko's designing it, it's probably going to have some very interesting things going on, is my guess, because it's Volko. So, Brant says, Second World War at Sea. Yeah, so they have done a number of alternate history things over at Avalanche Press. I'm not Mr. Alternate History for war games. That's just not something that I'm terribly interested in gaming out. Alternate history fiction, that's a different story. I can get into that, and I have in numerous occasions, and maybe we should actually have a show about that. Strategic Pacific War count as a naval game? I've already said no to that question, but I mean, there's certainly the naval aspect is so big in that game that you could reasonably put it into this category. Mean Joe Green, welcome back to the show, says in his memoirs, of his 4 memoirs, Isaac Asimov mentions visiting Fletcher Pratt's home and playing naval miniature war games on the floor. I remember that, actually. That was actually awesome. I may have mentioned that in a stream. For those who don't know, Isaac Asimov, famous science fiction writer, and one of the great science fiction writers of his period, despite some personally, perhaps, poor decisions, wrote a huge 2-part autobiography, and then there was like a book of his letters that was released later on, and another book called I, Asimov, which is like the last thing that was published, was like one of the last things that he actually wrote, and was published after his demise. I will remind everybody, great company, thank you so much for reminding everyone to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. I'm going to have to get used to looking at all the stream stats on YouTube instead of StreamYard, which just provides me with that information, which is great, but it's fine. It's fine. It's just a different kind of screen. So I am running a browser, which is Brave. It's not Firefox, although I did install Firefox. But then I made the decision to move away from StreamYard. So Firefox might be getting uninstalled. The Far Seas, yeah, that does look good. That's the one from VUCA that's coming, if I'm not mistaken. And as Perfidious Albion mentions, it is 100% appropriate to consider Starfleet Battles to be a naval war game. Because it plays very much like a naval war game. And in fact, it plays in a lot of ways like close action. Although it predates close action by a considerable number of years. I don't know why that. I might get into this later in the show, Bill, as to why I moved away from StreamYard. But essentially, the subscription expired. And it's the short version of this story is the subscription expired, and I don't want to pay for it for another year because it's expensive. So there is nothing that it does that I can just fundamentally cannot do with OBS. It does help in terms of, well, there are certain things that just OBS is not good for. Multi-streaming is one of them, streaming to multiple destinations. And that is why we are no longer streaming on Twitch, at least for the time being. Because I'm basically splitting my upstream bandwidth, which should be fine, but I don't trust it, between 2 destinations. And I don't want to do that. I want to just stream to one thing. Whereas with StreamYard, what you were doing is streaming to StreamYard, which then in turn is streaming to multiple destinations. That does represent in more of a delay, so there's there's already noticeably less delay, and when I see the comments, respond to the comments, all that other stuff. So there's that. Yeah, and StreamYard's, it's kind of scandalously expensive. Jeff Beeler says that VUCA's Far Seas is a reprint of S&T's Far Seas that won an Origins Award. Okay. I'll have to take a closer look at that. I am insufficiently on top of VUCA's upcoming stuff. I tend to not... Where am I putting these? I tend to not notice it until it's out. And largely, I think that is a function of me not being on social media nearly as much as I used to be. So, and that's not going to change. I'm still in a couple of places, but oh, Bill Simone. Wait. Signals from the core. Yeah, I've got a lot. So it's not 100% Traveler behind me, but the Traveler is all behind me. So thanks for stopping by. Have greatly enjoyed your latest episode. It's a Traveler podcast called Signals from the Core. It is available in a variety of places. I listen to it on Spotify. And Christoph de Klerk, thank you so much for the support. It is much appreciated. I got to see what I can do here. Starfire is also fun. Also not... I mean, it's kind of... I mean, most space combat games are modeled after some era of naval warfare. Okay, Starfleet Battles is kind of like an Age of Sail type of model. Depending on exactly what you're talking about, I'd say more Age of Sail than anything else. But there's, of course, a whole bunch of science fictional elements in that as well. So I will, later on, I'll have an update on the Traveler campaign too, but that's quite a while ago. So if you do play Traveler or are interested in Traveler, I highly recommend checking out the Signals from the Core podcast. It is focused on the core sector of the official Traveler universe. And I do have a video in me soon, hopefully, about Traveler and why I chose not to use the official Traveler universe in the campaigns that I'm running. Drew says that Federation and Empire plays an awful lot like Victory in the Pacific. I have to admit that in my quite limited experience with Federation and Empire, that I didn't really get a Victory in the Pacific vibe from it. But I have played we played 2 evenings or something like that. So you're not really going to get 100% solid taste of Federation Empire in 2-3 hour sessions, which is about what we spent, I think. Perfidious Albion asks about the War of 1812 Great Lakes campaign. It's not Captain C. That's from Mike Nagel. We interviewed Gina Willis as the designer. I can't remember the name of the game. A Glorious Chance. That's what it is. Thank you, Craig Alexander. Molotov Cocktail says in the Three Body trilogy, which I haven't read. I've watched the Netflix show, and I enjoyed it. And I'm glad they're doing another season of it. And it didn't apparently do that well. It's got a good It's got a good cast. I won't say it's issue-free, but I did enjoy it. Serpents of the Sea. Serpents of the Sea is not its own thing. It is an expansion for Flying Colors. And of course, Bayonet Brand says they've got 2 sessions of Starfleet Battles at Origin, 6 hours exactly, with Lee running them. He is our local, Central Ohio local expert in the matter of Starfleet Battles. Pavel Berlin, thanks for stopping by. I cannot tell you very much at all about computer naval games. I do have Silent Service or something like that, one of the submarine games, and I really have not done anything with it at all. Neil Bedke mentions the Chinese Three Body Problem series, whatever it's called. And I watched an episode or 2 of that, and it's really slow. The pacing is really slow. So I didn't get very far in it. I keep hearing, Mike Berticelli, thanks for stopping by. I keep hearing how good the series is, and I'd kind of like to read it, but I bounced off the audiobook. Whenever there's a lot of names that are not familiar to me, I would strongly prefer to read the thing rather than listening to the audiobook, because I'll get lost in the names. The seeing it visually is important for me. Are there games specifically about the Battle of Tsushima, I wonder? That would be interesting. Bill recommends the Three Body books highly. I would like to read them, actually. What am I reading at the moment? I'm really kind of looking for some fiction. I mean, I'm reading some other stuff, but I'm kind of looking for a piece of fiction to read right now, and nothing that I've started has grabbed me. Book 2 of the series, it's a 3-book series by Cixin Liu. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but that's what we got here, folks, is me trying. And the series is called Remembrance of Earth's Past, and there's 3 books. The Three-Body Problem, which is pretty famous. It won a Hugo Award for Best Novel. And the second one is called The Dark Forest, which has been so influential that astronomers and people interested in the Fermi paradox are now using that term to describe the dark forest answer to the Fermi paradox, which is that basically everybody's hiding because there's big mean aliens out there somewhere. Now, this is not a particularly new idea. In fact, Alastair Reynolds, in his Revelation Space series, deals with this very topic, and I'm reasonably certain that does predate the Three-Body Problem by a considerable amount, or certainly the Dark Forest. But there's other things going on in the Three-Body Problem series too. Paul Dangle mentions that Avalanche has done Tsushima games. Jeff T mentions the Murderbot Diaries. I have done audiobooks of like the first 2 or 3 Murderbot books, and was pretty entertained. They're also short, quite short, which is helpful. The Dark Forest actually does sound like a Ted Racer game, doesn't it? Thinking about it. The Deadly Woods was the Bottle of the Bulge game that he released through Revolution Games. I've got a couple of the Honor Harrington books. I should read those. I'm aware of Mr. Weber's contributions to gaming as well. All right, so the other things I had on my list. Flat Top, obviously. Very reliant on hidden information, will not solitaire well, works best with a referee, but the system itself will kind of take care of the hidden information for you if you are playing it without a referee. It is also very heavy on bookkeeping, which some people don't like. I don't mind, generally speaking. Oh, yeah, this would be quite interesting, actually. Perigee mentions Thomas Cochrane, the only post-captain in the Royal Navy who got his own nickname from Napoleon. And he had a storied career, as I recall. Flat Top. I've played it several times now. I've actually never played it without a referee. But, I mean, the way you play it with a referee is you're still filling all the paperwork out. The referee gets to process that paperwork and do the resolution, which is a considerable workload, I will add, just to be clear on that. And yes, Pavel Berlin, there is a Murderbot series. It is on Apple TV. It has been renewed for season 2, and I have no idea when that's coming out. But I enjoyed the series as well. I'm not 100% sure. I think I did the audiobooks after I had seen the first and only season of the series. It felt pretty compatible with Traveler to me, and actually we watched it right around the same time that I was like, okay, it's time to run Traveler, let's get on this. And it was another inspiration, and I keep forgetting about that. I always say, oh, Andor, and Andor was fantastic and a major inspiration, but kind of Murderbot was too. Oh, Craig Company, thanks for stopping by. Mentions Joe Abercrombie's The Devils, which is a pretty recent release. I think it came out last year. I have read his First Law trilogy, which I have some video reviews of on the other channel. And I never got around to doing the third book, though, which I did finish. And boy, is that third book good. If you like interesting and very colorful characters, Joe Abercrombie is somebody to keep an eye on. He's got a couple of different series set in the same world, and a couple of standalones set in the same world, and then The Devils, which is its own thing. But I think there's going to be follow-ups to that, too. Drew says that Flat Top and Southwest Pacific in general work okay. Freeform, Midway not so much. I mean, Midway's kind of a set situation, right? I think where Midway is going to work best... There's been plenty of games on Midway, and I've played 0 of them, okay? But I have played the Midway scenario in Pacific War, and that works. All right, yeah, Boomerman Dan Webb says he wants to play Jutland, but his wife won't let him take the kitchen floor up for like a whole weekend. So I understand that. And yeah, I'll agree with Jeff Beal. You must have a bigger kitchen than I do, because I couldn't fit nothing like that on my kitchen. If I removed the dining room table and all the furniture and all that stuff from a room, I could do that. I do not have a floor big enough to play Jutland on, under no circumstances. Bill Simone says The Devils is great and sequel out soon. All right, so Second World War at Sea. I've got a copy of the Coral Sea volume in the Second World War at Sea series. And it's kind of, I haven't played it. Mike Benighoff was kind enough, putting stuff in the wrong compartments, was kind enough to send me some stuff. And it's one that I do want to try because it looks a lot like Flat Top, except that there's a bunch of different variants of it. And I am aware of CV from Yaquinto? Battle Line? No, it wasn't Battle Line. Yaquinto? Who did CV? Which is basically Flat Top for Midway rather than Coral Sea stuff. The nice thing about the Coral Sea area in general and I wouldn't necessarily have recognized this, is that like a lot of World War II stuff happens in that area on that map, right? So you've got a lot of things you can do just with that map. You would need a separate map for Midway. Enemy Coast Ahead Doolittle's Raid. That's not naval. No, I wouldn't call that naval. Either Enemy Coast Ahead games, very good games, I will point out. The Doolittle Raid is, I mean, there's a ship in it, right? but I wouldn't call that naval. Although there are naval stages in the campaign game. CV was Victory Games? No, that's not the game I'm talking about. I think Drew's talking about Carrier here. So, Second World War at Sea looks to me very much like it's in the same vein as Flat Top. So, of course, I'm like, oh, yeah, I want to try this. But CV, yeah, thank you, Meandering Mike. CV came out from Yaquinto, and it was designed by S. Craig Taylor, who was the designer of Flat Top as well. And Drew mentions Gary Grigsby did a lot of computer games. He's done a lot of games in general. The only one I've got, though, that would count is the Admiral, or in the Pacific Admirals Edition, which honestly was too much even for me, to be completely honest. Bill mentions Nemo's War, which I have insufficient familiarity with to really comment on that at all. It is, as far as I'm aware, a solitaire game. Christoph de Klerk asks, he says, they called it a turkey shoot because the admirals took the right decision. No, that's the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, where a whole bunch of ships got sunk. That's like a specific period. Now, Second World War at Sea has been avalancheized. And what I mean by that is it works off a general dice pool type system, which is not a system I'm a huge fan of, but it's not a system I hate either necessarily. So there's tons of RPGs with dice pool systems, the most famous of which... okay, so there's two RPG examples using dice pool systems, and they are both examples where you can end up rolling a fairly large number of dice. Those are Vampire the Masquerade and that whole family of games, the World of Darkness games. Although I guess there's a new edition coming out that might not use the same system. I don't know anything about this yet. And Shadowrun. In both cases, you could end up rolling large quantities of dice. But even in games that don't use dice pool systems, the most famous example of buckets of dice is probably the D&D Fireball spell, which scales with level. So if you've got a high-level caster casting a fireball, you could end up rolling 18, 20 dice or something like that. Champions could be like this too, or the hero system in general, depending on what you're doing with it. With superheroes, it can absolutely happen. Mike Berticelli mentions the Bismarck from VUCA, which is, what's the Hunt for Bismarck? Is that what that's called? I forget the exact title. We're in a situation now where my head has kind of ceased to be able to maintain knowledge of every single wargame title and who designed it. Too many war games I am familiar with. Winterson, welcome back to the show. Says the Arkham Horror RPG uses dice pools. I see. I'm like, why is anyone? I mean, it's like a marketing thing because Arkham Horror is very popular. It's supposed to be good. I've never played it. Any edition of Arkham Horror, and it's been around for a very long time. Um, okay, we've got some excellent comments coming up here that I want to touch on. Uh, and as Perfidious Albion points out, the buckets of dice system is just a different mechanic, right? It's not a traditional wargame mechanic, I guess, but I mean, wargames have been using it for quite a long time, since at least the 70s. But it was never a mechanic that either SPI or Avalon Hill really embraced. And even GMT, while they do have some games like that, I wouldn't say GMT has all that many dice pool games either. Ken Lil, thanks for stopping by, says that a lot of Free League games use dice pools. The Free League system that I'm familiar with is the Year Zero engine that is used in a number of things, including Forbidden Lands, which is a game that has some things about it that I like a lot, but I didn't enjoy actually playing it. That's also used in their new edition of Twilight 2000. And it's, there's a lot of differences between those two. Those are the two I've either got or have looked at. So, all right. So the Sea Lords series that Perigi is mentioning here is from Red Sash Games, and apparently there's going to be some more games in that series eventually. Meandering Mike says that Britannia is considered buckets of dice. That's a classic. Drew says that there's another issue with Naval Games turn scale. This is why pre-Dreadnoughts, big ironclads have issues being made. Okay, so I think there's a couple of things that I have to unpack in this. Turn scale is going to be scale in general, okay? What does the map cover? What is the operating area? What do the pieces represent? What size of units or ships or whatever it is we're talking about is one of the most important decisions that anybody is going to make when they design a game. And I do think that some designers, and none of the designers that I would mention normally fall into this category. Some designers just kind of automatically say, well, this is the scale because this is the scale of Third Reich, right, for example. A lot of designers have done that. And I think in uncritical choices of scale have caused a number of games serious problems. The obvious example there would be Europa, of course. Mike has looked closely at Jerry White's Pacific Chase. That's another one on the list of things that I think is a really interesting game, and was on my list for this evening. Now, Atlantic Chase came out a couple years ago, was very well received, sold out very quickly. Not sure if I don't recall off the top of my head whether it has been reprinted already or not, but if it hasn't, it's going to be it's going to be again, one way or the other. It's a really interesting game design. It kind of builds hidden information into the game system in a very interesting way. In addition, it is a marvelously presented game. It's one of the best pieces of wargame presentation that I've seen. Sea Lords on the Mekong Delta. I had that, and I got rid of it, and I shouldn't have, because it looks pretty interesting. I forgot what I was talking about. What game was I talking about? Signals from the Core says, Modifius games use dice pools. Not so, kind of. Not really, no. I do think Modifius has a couple of different systems cooking, but the one that they're known for is that 2D20 system. That's used by their Conan game, the new Dune, well, not new, but it's currently a thing, the Dune game, and the John Carter game, which is no longer a thing. They lost the license for that. And there is a new Barsoom game coming out from somebody, I don't remember who. I waited decades for I was a huge John Carter of Mars fan when I was like an early teenager, and always wanted an RPG for that. And I do think that the Modifius game is decent. And I've got that, so I don't need the new one, whatever that is. It's probably going to, well, I don't know. Don't worry, Bert Matus. Welcome back to the show. I'm sure that we probably have drifted considerably already anyway. It's 8:47. I will do a verbal thing. I'll get the Noble Knight thing set up for next show. The clip, the actual ad. It is not set up for tonight, so I will talk about the latest shit from Noble Knight that showed up in a bit. Octung Cthulhu, yeah, I think that's a 2d20 game too. So you have like 2d20 is the resolution. You just roll in. You can roll more, but usually you're not rolling more than like 3, 4, 5 dice, and the usual roll is just 2 dice. And then I believe you have effect dice, which are d6s. I believe. I even bought some of the fancy dice from or at least one set of the fancy dice from the John Carter game. I don't like to buy special dice for RPGs, though. I don't like that. There are games where I get past it, but as a thing, I don't like that. What have we not talked about? So there's what I'm going to call the trifecta of great Age of Sail games. That consists of Wooden Ships and Iron Men, Flying Colors, and Close Action. Wooden Ships and Iron Men, of course, is an Avalon Hill classic. Flying Colors is a whole series of games that's been released by GMT, designed by Mike Nagel. And we'll put that over here. Do we have another one? We'll use this. And Close Action, which has had a couple of expansions, is from Clash of Arms. Of those 3... the scale, it's kind of like an individual ship scale for both Wooden Ships and Iron Men and Close Action, whereas Flying Colors is more of like a squadron level game, or at least can be played that way. There's like a dual mode. There's like a dual mode you can use too, where you want to dig into a little more detail. But I'm feeling like if I'm going to do that, I'll just do Wooden Ships and Iron Men. And Serpents of the Seas, that was mentioned previously in the chat, is one of the expansion modules for Flying Colors. I've played of the 3. There's also Fighting Sail, which was an S&T game that was released by SPI in the late 70s. I don't remember the exact year, but I do have it, and it comes quite highly recommended, actually. I know a number of people who really like that game system. I do have it. I have not had a chance to play it. It is not on a hex grid. It is on like a square grid or rectangular grid. So I'm going to say, let's see here. Critical likes Close Action and Wooden Ships and Iron Men better than Flying Colors, and hey, if you do, you do. I mean, what do you got? Eric Selna, welcome back to the show, mentions in GMT's Infernal Machine, which is a real interesting looking game designed by Jerry White, and I'm going to forget the co-designer's name now, but we had him on the show, and it was a great discussion. So that looks like a really neat game. I would not probably call it a naval game. I might not call it a war game. Whether that's important to you or not, that's up to you. Ed Ostermeyer, thank you, HUN644, much appreciated. Jeff Beeler mentioned Soldier Kings from Avalanche, which is, as a lot of Avalanche stuff is, a bucket of dice game. It's like a... it looks intriguing, let me put it that way. I have it, I have not played it. So... let's see here. As Perfidious Albion points out, naval combat modeling is major abstraction. It's like using micro armor at 1-to-1 scale. Yeah, I mean, it certainly is. I mean, naval combat is very different from land combat, right? Oh, well, that's it. I'll be jumping into the weeds on that, and I don't want to necessarily do that on tonight's show, because then we would swing wildly off topic, and I haven't thought about it enough. Perfidious Albion says Soldier Kings played twice. Awesome time. That's great. I would like to try it. Like I said, it is a multiplayer game, which means it's kind of hard to arrange with the multiplayers. And I don't know whether it has hidden information in it or not. It may not. Of the big 3 naval war games on the Age of Sail, and again, Wooden Ships and Iron Men, Flying Colors, and Close Action. Close Action is the most detailed. It does feel playing like a lot like playing Starfleet Battles, actually, or I guess BattleTech, because you've got like the same kind of like record sheet for the ship where you're checking out boxes and stuff like that. Captain C is a Mike Naval game that has come out relatively recently and looks fairly interesting. I have mentioned it here on the show, but I don't know enough about it to really say anything about it, other than that it is a game by Mike Nagel and looks interesting. So we've also got, I've actually talked about Victory in the Pacific and War at Sea and related titles already, and there are quite a few related titles at this point. Molotov Cockatiel says Blackbeard. So my question on that is always, which Blackbeard are we talking about? Are we talking about the Avalon Hill game or the GMT game? They're both designed by Richard Berg, but they are very different games. I like the Avalon Hill Blackbeard kind of a lot, actually. It's like a general piracy simulator. How awesome is that? But it has features that people complain about, like a lack of potential, at least lack of interaction between the players. That's a 100% accurate criticism, and if that's a deal breaker for you, then maybe the original Blackbeard is not going to be for you. But I'm going to make a note here because there's a game that has been mentioned by several people that aren't me, and I want to talk about it. But the GMT game is a complete redesign that's like a very different game. It doesn't play the same at all. It does not, to me anyway, feel like the same kind of game. And I think the difference between them is that Blackbeard, which came out in the 90s, first half of the 90s, sounds approximately correct, maybe late 90s. But the Avalon Hill Blackbeard plays like a war game and was designed like a war game and has wargamey type mechanics. Whether you consider it a war game or not, it has war game style mechanics. Where Berg's trying to do something different with the GMT version of Blackbeard. Now, which I did not play, and I looked at it, I'm like, well, this isn't the game I remember at all. I didn't own it until the Avalon Hill Blackbeard until like the last few years. So I ended up running down a copy of the old one. It didn't look like the same game at all, and the GMT Blackbeard went away. And for all I know, maybe it's fun too. I just don't know. So the other one, Mike Berticelli says he has captaincy and likes it. It's really like playing a tactical one ship versus one ship, tracking all the damage. Yeah, well, there's close action for that too. That said, I don't expect the two games to be particularly similar. So some people are going to like one over the other. But I have close action. Jeff Beeler mentions Enemy in Sight. That's intriguing, actually. I have no familiarity with that. Danny Resecari says, we redid the Red Storm Rising scenario in Harpoon. It went almost the same as the book. That's cool. Drew says he'd rather just play Sid Meier's Pirates. That's not a game I played back in the day. And that's a video game, for those who don't know. Jonathan Dyer mentions When Dreadnoughts Ruled the Waves. Not familiar with that at all. And Prophecy Albion asks, was there a war game on Viking raids and the Rus expansion into the Volga? I am confident that there was, but I'm not sure what it was or who came out or who put it out. Neil Bedke mentions Merchants and Marauders, a Euro, great game on the age of piracy, pick up and deliver, and detailed combat games. That sounds intriguing. I don't have an objection to playing a Euro as such. Windrose is a new video game that I haven't looked at it at all. And Molotov, this is one that's on my list, is mentioned by Bill, Molotov Cockatiel, Rebel Raiders on the High Seas. This is a GMT game. I feel like, I might be misremembering this, I feel like it sat in GMT's clearance page for kind of a while. But it also seems to have been a game that people really liked and continue to like, and I see with some regularity get played at conventions. And that is a Civil War game about rebel raiders on the high seas. Mark McNair asks if... Brant, thanks for stopping by. Mark McNair asks whether Trireme has been mentioned. And I don't think I have mentioned it, actually. Trireme originally came out from Battle Line and was redone by Avalon Hill. I have an Avalon Hill version. It uses one of those Avalon Hill one-piece maps that are garbage, and I don't like it for that reason. But for a long time, it was like the only hex encounter or traditional war game on Ancient Naval Warfare at all. Nowadays, we at least have War Galley, and there's a couple other ones floating around now, too. Mike Berticelli says you can combine Rebels of the High Seas and Iron and Oak together and take 24 hours to play it. That's not that bad, actually. 24 hours to play something like that. This is possible. Bill says it's at the Forever... This is Rebel Raiders on the High Seas, and he thinks the reviews got better after it sold out. I've seen that happen in a number of other cases, too. I want to say that the Avalon Hill Trireme was in a magenta box too, something like that. There's been a couple of really good videos on naval wargaming from Gilbert Collins, who pointed out an issue that kind of touches on what Perfidious Albion is saying about modeling World War II naval, which is like the ranges are insane. So you end up with like without formation being a factor in the combat resolution. And I do think for some people that's going to be an issue. And it's probably an issue for me, too, to be completely honest about it. But I'd like to try the game system nevertheless. Jeff Beeler mentions the Spanish-American War, 1898. This is from Compass. Am I right about that? Against Spanish forces in Cuba and Puerto Rico, because it integrates land and naval combat. I'm kind of looking for straight naval stuff, although I have included a number of examples that also include land in some measure. Remember the Maine, which isn't the Spanish-American War game from Compass, a redo of Remember the Maine? I do have Remember the Maine, actually. I've not really looked at it. It's one of those S&Ts that I picked up for $1 or $2 or $5 maybe at a convention or something like that. I just haven't looked at it. What else do we have on the list that I haven't mentioned? Of course, there's the Avalon Hill Bismarck. I have a first edition of that. I haven't played it. I haven't had it all that long. I would like to play it. Danny Secker mentions that Caesar and Alexandria has both ship and land combat. I don't remember the ship. Oh, there was a scenario for War Galley in there, wasn't there? That's the case for Caesar Conquest of Gaul as well, as I recall. I have not played Caesar and Alexandria. It's one of the I have not played most of the GBOH games, to be honest about it. I played Alexander, SPQR, Caesar and Gaul, and that might be it, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of cool topics that are covered in that series that I would like to get into. I really like to kind of bust out Chariots of Fire now with the expansion coming for that. I don't have enough time to do any of this stuff. So I also owe everyone a What's on the Table video. So what's on the table right now is the Battle of the Wilderness in GCACW, and which is one map, and the entire rest of the table is covered by Thunderbolt, and most of that is, I got the whole map on there, but it's 3 maps, and all of which 2 are full-size maps and 1 is somewhat smaller. The Carthage map's a little bit smaller. And that's got naval rules and advanced naval rules, too. I've never played with the advanced naval rules. It's something that I want to look at. And I don't want to tear it down, but the fact is that the displays for Thunderbolt are taking up a shit ton of the table. So what I think I want to do is pull the displays, put them on a side table. I'll have to figure a way to keep the cats out of that, but that's a solvable problem. Danny mentions everybody hit the thumbs up button. We are not going to do a video from Noble Knight Games tonight, but I will take a quick break and talk about what great folks they are at Noble Knight, as well as a new thing that I, for some reason, didn't bring into the room. The RPG spotlight of a new RPG that I have received, thanks in great measure to your support for using the affiliate link that's in the video description through Noble Knight. This game is Aftermath. from Fantasy Games Unlimited. I want to say 1983 or 1984 for this. This is a big box version. It's it's got a lot of wear on it, but it's cool. And it's a very interesting game. It's kind of a build your own post-apocalyptic world type of system. One of the cool things here is sometimes you get like extra things in the box that like the original owner, like character sheets or something like that. In this case, what we got, I think, are the actual original dice. These are tiny D20s and D6s, and on camera they might look like Chessex D6s, but they aren't. And it's the tiny D20s that make me think that it is. That it might be the original dice. So the interesting thing about Aftermath is actually the designers, Paul Hume and Bob Sherritt. The cover art here is by Bob Sherritt as well. These folks ended up at FASA and were instrumental in the design of a variety of things, including Battletech and Shadowrun. So there's an interesting design lineage here. And the game is kind of typical of Fantasy Games Unlimited back in this particular era. Not every single Fantasy Games Unlimited game is as overcomplicated and fussy as some of them are. This one is one of the overcomplicated and fussy ones, quite frankly. But there's also some pretty cool stuff in here. So it's an interesting game. I had it back in the day and got rid of it like a dick. So thanks to your support, I have managed to reacquire a copy of the seminal Aftermath from Fantasy Games Unlimited. And I want to say I've got 4 or 5 of their games at this point. I got Cyworld 2, but that was like $10 in the shrink wrap. Nobody wants Cyworld. Cyworld, for those who don't know, is basically Scanners, the RPG. If you've seen, where are these going? If you've seen the film Scanners with Michael Ironside. All right, so once again, big thanks to Noble Knight Games, who are the official sponsors of the Counterclipping show, and one of the great ways that you could support the show is by using the affiliate link in the video description. A certain person expressed confusion about how it works, so here's how it works. There's a link in the video description. Click on that link, and then it goes to Noble Knight's website. And from there, you can sign in and buy something. And I get some percentage in store credit as a result. And that support is much appreciated. I like Scanners a lot as well. There was like... does anybody but me remember the Tomorrow People? Those of you in the UK have a better chance of remembering this. But it was like this science fiction show. It was about these generally youngish people that I think were supposed to be teenagers, but frankly, they all looked like they were 30 because the actors were. About this like secret telepathic society on Earth that was in contact with aliens and stuff like that. It was a pretty cool show when I saw it back in the day on Nickelodeon. And I'm not, there was a remake of it on like the CW or something. I don't know anything about that. I didn't watch that. So yeah, they had like this thing where if they killed somebody because they were telepaths, they would experience like some kind of mental anguish of some kind. The remake bombed. Yep. I liked the show back in the day. I have no idea if this would hold up today. No idea. There's a good chance it wouldn't. A number of things that I really liked when I was growing up. So, up to, say, age 15 or 16. Don't hold up very well today at all. One example is not all, some of it was actually pretty decent, was the original Battlestar Galactica. Man, most of those episodes are fucking stinkers. There's some good ones. Basically, anything that was a 2-parter is probably a good one. And all the standalone episodes, is like the people writing this show, they're just like, okay, we're on Wild West World now, just like Star Trek did. Didn't really like it at all upon attempting to rewatch it. And of course, I have problems with the remake as well. But the remake was really good for that first season. All right. Real Time says about 1:30, the original Battlestar Galactica was good. It might have been as high as that. Remember, this was a period where the expectation was you're going to have like somewhere between 22 and 26 episodes per season. So they did a lot of episodes. They did at least 3 2-parters and 1 3-parter. And like I said, that's right. And it only had 1 season. We do not count Galactica 1980 because that's a different show, and it was awful. with the exception of the one episode that everybody is the one that everybody remembers because it was the only decent one, which does not take place in modern day Los Angeles, and which does not feature a cameo from Wolfman Jack. So, Molotov mentions a new RPG called Public Access. Know nothing about this. Kids in a town watched weird, creepy cable channel. They grow up and no one remembers it, but a few have to. Okay, that doesn't sound interesting to me, to be honest about it. Space 1999 was another one. It was hit. Let's face it, it was hit and miss. But it was cool, too. Meandering Mike mentions Iron Bottom Sound, which is a game that I have never played. I have seen it on a table somewhere. Somebody at a Winterfest a few years ago had it thrown down. And the only thing I can say about it is that game has my favorite Roger McGowan cover. I forget which version of. There's like 3 different versions of it. It's the same art in all cases, but I think it's an Iron Bottom Sound 3. That's the one that I like the best. The way I remembered the original Battlestar Galactica series was I saw it on TV. And it was released theatrically and it was recut for TV, but I don't recall which one came first. Michael Pratt says Space 1999 was cited in a Supreme Court opinion as to how bad it was. I know nothing about this. Yeah, as Henry Mike points out, the 3 different covers of Iron Bottom Sound, it's all the same piece of art, but the coloration is different in one of them, and that's the one that I like the best. I never watched UFO either. I have no real recollection of that. I do remember both the Planet of the Apes TV series, which did have Roddy McDowall in it, and the Logan's Run TV series, which I don't think I ever saw much of. It was weird. Alistair Logie, welcome back to the show, says they had a Battlestar Galactica ride at Universal Studios when he was there in Hollywood in 1990. Wow. All right, Christoph, we're not doing the politics talk. This isn't the place for it. Okay, and so we have a general rule here that we're really not going to get into contemporary politics or religion, even though I am highly interested in both those topics. But we need to maintain, this is my call, right? Because it's my channel. So I have a long-standing position is you can have whatever political or religious opinions you want. We're a free country. At least this is... well, I'd have to look at the chat history. So, if he's just saying, I think we're asking for clarification here, and just bear in mind, stay away from those topics. Okay, just let's kick back and have fun and stay away from those topics. We can engage with those topics. Just do it someplace else. Okay. Mr. Mark Herman is here. Yes, War Galley has been mentioned a number of times, and in fact, it's a cool game. So yeah, pretty much no politics. Period. I mean, I just don't want to have to deal with that. If we have it opens up huge cans of worms for moderation and things like that I do not wish to burden either our moderators or myself with. So just stay away from it. If somebody says something political, Danny and Stacking Limit have authorization to put the person in a timeout so they can stand in the corner for 20 minutes. Falklands Showdown, the 1982 Anglo-Argentine War. Red Dragon Rising system goes to the Falklands or the Malvinas? Malvinas? I don't know. So that's interesting. Games and Scotch, or history. History's fine, too. Play more pirate Borg. I'll be honest, I don't really see what the appeal is in the Borg series of things. I mean, it's like gritty D&D. Okay, but I don't personally have a reason for that. Now, playing a pirate game in general absolutely can be tons of fun. Tons of fun. But if I'm going to run a pirate game, frankly, it's going to be Pirates of Drenax. Dave from Wisconsin asked me if I have any thoughts on the Bismarck Solitaire game by Worthington. I believe that was one of the early ones that they did. The solitaire book games. And a couple of those solitaire book games have tempted me. And the Bismarck is one of them. The other one was the Starship Commander or whatever that was called. That was cool. Naval War from Avalon Hill, that's a good one too. But I unfortunately have not really looked at any of the Worthington book games. So I don't know that I have anything particularly intelligent to say about it. Professor Al being asked about a Mayfair game on the Bell of the Falcons. I don't remember that, but Mayfair was not a company that I really had a tremendous fondness for back in the day. I did have, I shouldn't say it that way. They did some interesting things. I liked Empire Builder. I've played Empire Builder a number of times. And I have had a good time every time, even though it's another one that takes probably longer to play than it ought to, but, okay. Do I have a counter tray in here? I don't. That's unfortunate. Otherwise, I think I'm done clipping for the night. I'm gonna be clipping this friggin' 1914 for weeks still. War in the Falklands was the Mayfair game per Vince Ree. I'm not sure I remember that at all. I remember them they did do some war games. They did the Starship Troopers game, for example. They did a lot of they did Starship Troopers. They did Hammer Slammers. They did a Dragon Riders of Pern game. John Haas, thanks for stopping by. They did a number of other licensed things back in the day. Plus, they did stuff for that whole the Rolade series, which was a generic for any fantasy role-playing game type of thing. It was for D&D. And some of those were pretty decent products, I will say. Perigi, you may in fact talk about your awesome third year of Term 1 in your Mr. President game. That's totally okay. Because Mr. President, how political this is about where I'm going to operate here for a couple of minutes at the absolute limit of politics talk. And that's to ask the question of how political a game we think Mr. President is. Because despite what you might assume, I don't think it's a very political game at all. It's very abstract in a bunch of ways. Yes, you can have things like scandals and stuff, but that's all it is. Scandal. You have a scandal. It's like a die roll modifier. It doesn't tell you anything about the scandal. International friction. Again, that's abstracted. So how I would describe Mr. President is as a procedural game that has a lot of political tone, but not really much in the way of political content, right? I guess how that I would... no, did I say Starship Troopers? Yeah, that was Avalon Hill, obviously. Forever War is the one I was thinking of. I did play Starship Troopers back in the day, but I don't think I ever played any of the Mayfair Wargamey things. Danny mentions, it does take up, it's more than a map, right? So if I manage to successfully get Mr. President on to a standard 2.5 by 6 folding table, but I did so by cheating, by having all of the other materials, like the many books and player aids and stuff like that you need on other tables that were surrounding me at the time. Yeah, it is exactly, I agree with Christoph on this. He says he likes the thought of Mr. President has a gun law, but doesn't specify what the gun law is, right? Yeah, you can do that, but it doesn't really tell you what you're doing, right? So if you are somebody who is political because of specific stances on policy issues, Mr. President feels, which is probably true for me, Mr. President can feel weirdly unspecific in a lot of ways. I do think this is a general, this is more obvious at the moment in view of the current political situation. And that's the end of that, okay? People can weigh in on whether or not they think that Mr. President is, or to what degree it is a political game. I mean, certainly to some extent it is, but at the same time, it's remarkably unspecific, which I could characterize as a clever piece of design, actually, or I might say that it makes the game feel bland. And I think who you talk to is going to make the determination as to what opinion on it you get. That's always the case, of course, obviously. And we can discuss as hey Mal, thanks for stepping by. It's easier to talk about historical topics because of the historical distance that is between us and them, right? I'm well aware of the demographics of the Ardwulf Lair YouTube channel, which we tend to skew into 40s, 50s, and 60s. Okay, so probably 80% of the people watching are in their 40s, 50s, or 60s. And folks of our generation, or even older folks, have a lot of distance. I mean, World War II is almost 100. It's like 80 years. Yeah, close to 80 years now. And that's a lot of historical distance. There's not a lot of people even around anymore that remember that. There's even fewer World War II veterans around. Even Vietnam, until pretty recently, was a topic that wargames kind of tended to stay away from. I do think... let's talk about Vince Ree's question here. He asks if we're not considering Pacific War as naval in this context. I guess Oceans of Fire is out too. I do have Oceans of Fire. I would say yes if we're drawing the line of like where the naval dial is. I would say that Oceans of Fire is a little less purely naval than Pacific War. Pacific War is 80% naval stuff, right? Where it's closer to 50-50 in Oceans. At least this is my current thinking on Oceans of Fire. Thank you, Danny and Stacking Limit, for your intrepid work moderating things. It's okay. Just don't go there. That's it. So, nor do you need to respond to somebody who has said something. Let the moderators take care of that. There is a series of video games called the Democracy series. I think I've got one of those, and I played it. And to be fair, I found it too to be abstract the games are quite different, but abstract in a similar way to Mr. President. Jeff Beeler mentions Iron Lady's Fleet 2. I've never even heard of the first one. Modern naval combat in Falklands 82, 2015 by Japanese. This explains why I haven't heard of it. Technical Term Game Company. Based on the Victory Games Fleet series. That sounds intriguing, actually, to be completely honest about it. Based on the Victory Games Fleet series. I would not consider the Falklands to be a particular wargaming area of interest of mine. I believe I have one game on it. That game is Goose Green, TCS game from MMP, which we did fiddle around with, and which I need to get back to a look at Goose Green, because or a look at TCS, I should say, because it might not be Goose Green. I think Goose Green is almost so small that it's really not going to show you what TCS can do. Vince Reedy, yes, the Fleet series from Victory Games, I presume that's the one we're talking about here. There's also South China Sea. Now I'm going to have to look this up, because I think I'm conflating different games here. Yeah, okay, so there are two games that I see with South China Sea in the title. One of them is the game I was thinking of, which is the game from John Gorkowski and Compass Games. It's called South China Sea. It is a modern naval battle or operation simulator in the South China Sea, and it looks very intriguing. There's a follow-up to it, which I'm pretty sure stands alone. It's its own volume, but you can link it to South China Sea, even though the maps don't quite line up correctly, called Indian Ocean Region, which I think is really not a great title. South China Sea is okay. Indian Ocean Region, I don't know what that means. Breaking the Chains is another one, actually, which I think is John Gorkowski also as well. Boomerman Dan Webb asks about Ancients naval games, and the easy part here is there's not that many. Even today, there's not that many. The big ones are War Galley, which is part of GBOH, but obviously has a somewhat different system than all the other games in the series that are all land games. And Trireme from Battle Line and then Avalon Hill. There are a couple other ones at this point. But I think those are probably the ones that people are going to get pointed at. Now, the other game that I was thinking, I was trying to make sure I wasn't confusing it with South China Sea, is Flashpoint South China Sea, which is from GMT. It's designed by Harold Buchanan, and it is more of a game of strategic maneuvering, more so than it's not super duper war game. And I think Harold may even have said he doesn't think it's a war game either, which is entirely... I haven't played it, so I don't know, but that seems plausible. Lock and Load, it says Neil Badke, is supposed to be developing a North Atlantic naval game. I don't know about that. I wish I need to work on comment highlighting, because that's going to end up being important. I have also never played Harpoon, for the record. I do have Command Modern Operations, the video game. I haven't really done anything with it. It's probably the closest thing that we have to... There's been Harpoon video games, too. But it's probably the most comprehensive simulation of its kind, I think. All right, I'm not sure what this comment means at all, so we're going to simply move on. Oh, another one that's on my list that I haven't mentioned yet is indeed the same game that Bert Matus has just mentioned in the chat, Seas of Thunder. This is a game by Jeff Horger. It is from GMT. It came out a couple years ago. A lot of people were like, "Oh, the map looks weird," but I mean, if you think about it, the map does look weird. But if you think about it, it's easy to see why the map looks weird, right? It emphasizes the sea areas and de-emphasizes the land areas, which are all weird and misshapen. But I've heard good things about the game, and I think that it's something that I would like to take a closer look at some point. And apparently, even this sounds crazy to me, and apparently at some point in the game, you move to the late war map, which means you turn the board over. You pull everything off, flip the board over. But I guess it's for people I've talked to who have played it. They said it's not nearly as big a deal or big a pain in the butt as it sounds. Danny mentions that Harpoon 97 is on sale on Steam right now. Seas of Thunder is an ambitious game. It is it's naval, all of World War II. Global World War II. Half-inch counters, area map, as you would expect. Relatively... Is this true? I'm thinking I'm about to make a statement that is actually stupid. Dan Webb says he loves games that tell him to flip the board. You're not supposed to flip the whole table, just the board, right? Atlantic Sentinels is a solitaire game, and I think I know it's Greg Smith's system, but I'm not sure if that's the one that's designed by another designer or not. No, that is Greg, actually, because you're supposed to be able to link it with the Hunters or the Hunted, I suppose, and that sounds pretty intriguing. Same deal in the Pacific with... I've got this, and I can't remember the name of it. It's the U.S. submarines in the Pacific game. I forget what the name of the game is. Somebody will mention it. But yes, you should. Well, you can flip the table. I mean, but it's that's on you. And if none of the people you are playing with will ever play with you again because they think you're a spastic asswipe, that's on you too. I've never flipped a table. I've never been in a room where a table has gotten flipped, actually. We talk about it, and sometimes we talk about it a lot, but it actually is rare. It does happen, but it is rare. I have never seen it happen. And I've played at enough conventions. I would think I would have seen it happen if it was not rare. I will agree with Alistair Logie on here. I do think that Command Modern Operations is the spiritual successor to Harpoon. I also agree that it is fairly impenetrable. They are. There are YouTube instructional videos on Command Modern Operations. Noble Knight might have done that as an advertising opportunity. That's possible. Diplomacy, 100%. I will buy it that has happened. And we have talked about Shardenzar. Welcome back to the show. Mentions Oceans of Fire. Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit. I've got it. Some local people have played it and they say it's really good. But I haven't played it. I have it. It looks impressive. But I have not had a chance to play it or really seriously look at it. I've flipped through it, but other than that, games in fact do not grow on freeze. There are ill-paid designers and publishers working behind the scenes to bring you all these fabulous games. So, I gotta say, having rolled with this now for about an hour and a half with it, I would really, really, really like to be able to highlight comments. So that's something that we're going to have to figure out. Silent Victory, thank you, great company. That is the game I'm thinking of. And there's Sensuicon is the game that will link with it. I believe that's still on the table. I haven't picked up any of these lately because I kind of stopped by in most solitaire games. Is that the last is Mr. President the last solitaire game that I bought? I'm pretty sure it isn't, but I can't think of anything that I have bought since then. But then again, I don't buy a lot of solitaire games. I buy a lot of games that I can play solitaire, but that's just because I play them solitaire. The one that I'm looking at the moment is, and it's not a strictly solitaire game, is Imperial Elegy from VUCA, which has also just walked in the door courtesy of our good friends at Noble Knight Games and the support that folks who have used the affiliate link have allowed me to pick up. It's very ambitious. It looks very interesting. It is. I have there were some technical issues in the unboxing video, and unfortunately, I might be able to salvage it, but it's going to take editing, and I haven't bothered to do that yet. So, and Noble Knight, in the ad, yes, Noble Knight does show games growing on trees, but that's because they are the authorized harvesters of the lovely game trees. Token Express is another one that I kind of want to try. And I do have it, and it is solitaire, now that I think about it. Another one I ought to probably try is Peloponnesian War. I haven't tried that yet either. I'm cooking on ancient Greek stuff right now. I should be doing that. And I don't have a copy of Thucydides. I don't know what happened to my copy of Thucydides. I don't know where it went. I do have Xenophon's Hellenica, which is the sequel to Thucydides' history of the Peloponnesian War, basically. Covers the rest of it. So I should really probably try that. I've also got the Epic of the Peloponnesian War from Clash of Arms, and that looks intriguing too. And it looks more my style because it's got a hex map and there's some operational elements to it and stuff like that. But it also is not nearly as well regarded as the Peloponnesian War. So, Great Company says, if you're bipolar and you play a two-player game with yourself, is it now a solo game? The best the best response to this I heard was actually, I heard the other day watching Callendale play Imperial Elegy, where he said something along the lines of, this is a multiplayer game, but I just keep all the other players in my head. Something like that. Ed Holtzman, thanks for stopping by. Let me throw a link to the Ardwulf Lair Discord community in the chat this evening. This is another thing that I kind of have to retrieve a link for it every week because the links are only good for a week. So if you're watching this show after the fact and the link has expired, that's highly plausible. But reach out to me. My email address is in the ticker at the bottom of the screen. New ticker, by the way, too. And this one is cool because I don't have to bother remembering to turn it on. It's just on. And it's on the right scene, too. By the way, I need to ask this. People did hear the music during the intro, right? I had to change the intro and outro music. Just it's a revenue thing. Or a monetization thing, I should say. Folks did hear the music come in. I assume people would have said that, and it was the camera that wasn't working. I'm pretty sure I know what was going on there. So, carrier battles from RSS. I don't believe we have mentioned that. Are we talking? You're not talking about carrier battles Philippine Sea. I want to say that John Southard has another game in that sequence in the pipeline through Compass as well at this point. Excellent. Mike Berticelli, welcome aboard the Discord server. We're not super duper high traffic, but the Rising Sun simulations. Thank you, Vince Reed, because I was like, we are not the most active server on the planet, but we are also all friendly. It's exactly the same atmosphere I try to keep us in the show here. Relaxed, friendly. We're all friends here. That's what it's about, and that's why we stay away from certain things, because I don't want to think ill of folks, right? And I don't have to, which is the nice thing. All the kids around, Alistair says, all the cool kids around the Discord, and so am I. Yeah, that's actually from the YouTube. It is Drunken Sailor. It was actually in the YouTube audio library, believe it or not. So, I want the bagpipes back, though. I just couldn't find anything that I thought wasn't like instantly recognizable as well-known piece of bagpipe music. Could probably have gotten Scotland the Brave, but everybody's heard that. I don't want to use that. So, Burtman2 says, flat top and fast carriers blend in RSS's carrier battles. That sounds intriguing, actually. We are not swearing off bagpipes here, folks. We'll put them somewhere. I just got to find a right track that I can legally use without problems, and we'll figure it out. You might see some fluctuation in that department over the next few weeks. So, ban the bleat, says Stigler. What can I do with this post here? Kind of nothing. I don't want to accidentally ban anybody who doesn't deserve it. So, Stigler may not be aware that there are different kinds of bagpipes. So, for example, the pipes, at least most of the pipes used in the Braveheart soundtrack, are not the Great Highland pipes that you would most typically hear, and which are perhaps the most intense bagpipes. They use the Julian pipes, which are the Irish pipes, and they're less bagpipey. Let's put it that way. I like the Great Highland pipes personally, but I will concede that the bagpipes are an acquired taste. And of course, I became much more interested in this as soon as I found out I was like a third Scottish. It's not quite, but it's close. And I was like, oh, really? I didn't know that. So, but that does certainly explain why I like Scotch a lot. So, all right. Mike Reed mentions Yaquinto CV. I think what he's saying is he likes Yaquinto CV much more than Avalon Hill's flat top. And that S. Craig Taylor, legendary designer S. Craig Taylor, improved on a flat top with CV. I'm prepared to... This is... Stigler, this has come up in the Discord server, actually. We got both types of music, country and Western. I've never had haggis. For the record, I've never had haggis. I would be happy to have haggis, but haggis is also weird and gross. So I wouldn't like just get a canned haggis. You can get canned haggis, for example. I'm not doing that. Well, Jack Nastyface asks, what third of me is Scottish? The bottom, the middle, or the top? I'm not sure how to answer that question. to be completely honest. And yes, I do have a kilt. I actually have a couple. Only one of which is an actual kilt. The other one is a utilikilt, which is not a real kilt. It's a utilikilt. It's its own thing. Canned haggis. They do have canned haggis. Canned haggis looks very questionable to me. But if I was like in Scotland, which is a bucket list thing to do, I would go find haggis. Yes, I would. I feel like I would actually like haggis. I think like certain types of haggis are banned in the U.S., but the canned stuff might not be. Mike Reed says that the only canned thing worth a shite in Scotland is Iron Brew, which I would also try if I were in Scotland, but which I would probably not. Like, I'm not a soda guy. Why do I need soda when I have scotch, after all? Speaking of scotch, this excellent libation. I would like, we're coming up on there. We're coming up now on Gary Talks About Miscellaneous Bullshit segment of the show. Old Holtzman says he's half German and half Swiss, so we might as well be all German. Well, in that case, I'm mostly German, because I got a lot of Dutch, too. Which, they might as well be Germans, too, right? My wife and I have a rolling Scrabble game. We've got one of those magnetic Scrabble boards that you hang on the wall, and I'm waiting for her to take her goddamn turn, is what I'm waiting for at the moment. I like Scrapple. I like Scrapple. A lot of people don't. Scrapple typically, here's why, okay? Things like Scrapple, some Geta, but not all Geta, things like that tend to contain, these are foods that were invented by poor people to make their harder to find ingredients last, like meat, okay? So they tended to use cheap cuts of meat. And in many cases, including with Scrapple, that tends to be organ meat. Awful. And a lot of people don't like that. I won't eat anything. There's certain things I've tried and certain things I don't like. I like Scrapple. So I think I would like Scrapple. I agree with Blue Ronin. I think you're probably right. But I'm not going to just... it's like sushi. I don't go to the gas station and get sushi, right? Same type of deal. I want the good stuff. Salted pork for the East Coast. Salted pork for the East Coast. I've got some salt pork in the freezer, actually. Mike Reed likes Scrapple better than Geta. I don't. I like Geta better than Scrapple, but I do like Scrapple. Unfortunately, I could probably find Scrapple, but I can't find Geta up here. Christoph de Klerk mentions the infamous fermented shark that is enjoyed by Icelanders. You could find videos about this. Apparently, it's something else. Would I try it? Possibly. There's a bunch of places on the list of places I want to go that are above Iceland. Fried pork, liver and onions. I'll eat that, no problem. Oh, balut. Oh, don't even. That looks disgusting. I'm not doing that. That's disgusting. No, I'm not talking about it either. So drop that subject too. I didn't see John here, but he's probably around. Lutefisk. I've never had that either. I tend not to like tinned fish, but there are entire channels dedicated to giving reviews of tinned fish. I'm like, I don't know. I do like anchovies, and I will certainly use anchovies as an ingredient. I do not like anchovies on, at least the couple times I've tried anchovies on pizza, I haven't liked it. But I don't imagine that Papa John's is using the finest anchovies for their pizza. So there's that. Yeah, the fermented shark is fermented by the Icelanders because it is toxic as fuck, by the way. And they ferment it to remove the toxins. So yeah, I'm just gas. Even the grocery store. I'm not going to get in grocery store sushi from the deli counter either. I think that's a great way to get salmonella. And I've had salmonella. It sucks. So, and you keep salmonella. Salmonella can hang around for months of nothing. Those months will be filled with nothing but two activities: barfing and shitting. and it is thoroughly unpleasant. Thankfully, mine didn't last for months, but it can, and you do not want that. I love Spam. I had Spam today. I have Spam relatively regularly, and I buy it in bulk at Costco. So, there's at least one Scottish food channel. I don't remember the lady's name off the top of my head, but she's made some really good-looking stuff. I did, in fact, have Spam and eggs this morning. How about that? So, yeah, highly recommended. Don't get salmonella, because it's probably not going to kill you, but it's going to suck. And you're going to probably wish you were dead for at least part of your experience. So, no thank you. I have no problem with Spam whatsoever. Soup. That was the joke I told at work. I actually only missed like a week at work. Which was, that's significant news if you're working hourly. And I probably wasn't. I'm not actually sure because I transferred to non-hourly after a while. But Great Company says supermarket sushi equals crash diet. And that was, in fact, my salmonella experience. I lost like almost 30 pounds. I will give, there are only two ways that the 30 pounds exited my body, okay? Barfing or shitting. And it was incredibly unpleasant. And then I forget who called me. The health department calls me and they start grilling me on this. What did you have? What did you eat that day? I'm like, I did have it from, we think, a Chinese restaurant. That was this very dodgy Chinese restaurant in Columbus. So, anyway, Jack Nastyface says he thinks Naval and Air War games don't really get the love that they deserve at most game conventions. I will 100% agree with that. I do think that war gamers have overwhelmingly tended to concentrate on land warfare, okay? And often in games that focus on land warfare, the naval system is very much an adjunct or an annex. I won't say tacked in, because sometimes it's fairly organic. A lot of times it's fairly organic and can be certainly well done. But these are just not the things that the game is all that interested in, or they're much less interested in it. Classic example, War in Europe. Extremely abstract naval. And frankly, extremely abstract air as well. Fried bologna? Fried bologna is the only way I'll eat bologna. I don't like bologna, but fried it's good. My Desert Island Naval War Game, asks Dale Brady. That's a good question. Everybody pipe in on the chat. What is your Desert Island Naval War Game? Flat top for me. That's going to be mine. That's my favorite. I reserve the right to change my mind. And frankly, if you ask me a year from now, I might have something different to say about it. But for the last several years, I have said flat top is my favorite naval war game. Best convention food. Believe it or not, one of the best gaming conventions that there happens to be a good selection of food nearby is Origins. There's a food court for convenient food. It's pricey, but it's not crazy. The food in the convention center is expensive. That's a good point. Blue Ronin does make an excellent point here when he says that Flat Top is a terrible desert island game if you stuck there alone. In that case, I might pick something like, what would I pick? I'd have to think about that. That's a good point. I assumed players. Mike Herman says Empire of the Sun. If Mark says it's a naval war game, then we're counting it, folks. So, yes, Empire of the Sun would be an excellent choice, naval or not, as your desert island game. Origins has there's a food court in one of the attached hotels. There's like mini markets scattered throughout the place. If you go across the street and across to the next block, there's North Market, which has 20 or 30 different food vendors there with all kinds of stuff, international food choices, whatever you want. You can pretty much get there. You want Thai, you want Chinese, you want Mediterranean, you want Italian, you want Mexican. It's there. Last I was there, there's still a ramen shop. There's a Somali place. Somali food is pretty good. There's a Mongolian, perhaps. Might be Mongolian or Himalayan or something like that. Dale Brady's Emperor of the Sun arrives tomorrow. Awesome. A truly classic and seminal game. I'm not aware of Golden Corral near these conventions, and frankly, I think the days of Golden Corral have left me behind at this point. I have limited interest in going to a giant germ buffet, and also Golden Corral is a bit infamous for people getting in chair throwing fights over the rump roast is out or something like that. I don't want to deal with that. I went there to eat. I didn't want to go. It's not a spectator sport where chairs are flying across the room. No, thank you. Mike Reed, Avalon Hills Midway will always hold a special place in his heart because his first war game bought by his grandmother for his 7th birthday. Midway, that's a bit intimidating. I've got a copy of Midway now, actually, and I want to play it. Waffle House, I'm unaware. There's also a bunch of somewhat higher-end places around the Origins Convention Center complex. So there's a lot of options around there, regardless of what you want. There's a vegan place down the street, for example. Danny's kid dipped the steak in the chocolate fountain. Ugh. I'm more concerned about contaminating the chocolate fountain than anything else there, but... and as perfidious, I have eaten at Golden Corral, obviously. They used to have actually quite a good breakfast buffet. I liked the breakfast, but we're kind of brunch, I guess. I liked that, actually, because I love breakfast. Breakfast is my favorite meal of the day, not because... For 2 reasons, I think. One, I like the breakfast food. I like the eggs and the bacon and the sausage and the toast and all that stuff. And also, I usually wake up absolutely ravenous and I have to eat immediately. So, I haven't been to a buffet in a long time. However, I will say, and I would potentially at least be willing to say, the buffets that are most worth your time are probably casino buffets in Las Vegas. They can tend to be pretty expensive nowadays, but I'll tell you what, like the Caesar's Palace buffet, that was good. The Paris Hotel and Casino in Vegas buffet was really good too, although the bathrooms were a horror show. Banana pudding with Nilla wafers, I don't need to go get that at a buffet. Honestly, what I was getting at the breakfast buffet, I would usually get a little bit of liver and onions. So I do too, Michael Pratt. If it's like a $40 buffet, especially now, if you get something like a Brazilian steakhouse or something like that, that's a little bit different because that's not a buffet. At least the ones around here have like a buffet of side dishes, and then they bring the big swords out with the meat on them. And I like that. But I will also tell you that I have, more than once, eaten myself sick at a Brazilian steakhouse because it's so much food. And unless you have, tremendous willpower, and a lot of it is delicious, and unless you can just say, no, I'm done now. And if I paid $45 or $55 to eat there, I don't want to say that too soon, right? So last time I went there for my birthday, it's a special occasion type of thing. And I was like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Oh, that's not cool. Jeff Bueller says that Brian Youst of Multiman Publishing is headed to heart bypass and valve replacement surgery. Well, I certainly want to wish Brian that that surgery is swift, without complications, and that he will have a quick recovery. So let's all keep that in mind. I don't know. I've never been to an all-inclusive resort, so I can't even tell you. Playing Beat the Buffet can be fatal when your stomach burns. I didn't have that problem, but man, I felt like shit for like a solid day. Solid day. Don't forget the giant latte golf super game that Avalanche Press did for Second World War at C2. Massive box game. It's huge. It's a huge situation. Tons of counters. It's enormous. Oh, that's another. Oh, that's a good one. William Aarons, thanks for mentioning this. He mentions Arctic Disaster. I'm not sure I've heard of that, but apparently Arctic Disaster was the S&T game, I think. It mentions Convoy PQ-17, which is the infamous Convoy Disaster. I've got PQ-17 from GMT, and that's actually a really neat game. That's a really neat game. I would really like to play it again. And he mentions the Norway 1940 expansion by ATO. I haven't seen that. But the GMT PQ-17, that's a really interesting game. Again, a lot of hidden information. It uses blocks for some, but not all of the hidden information. There's a lot of hidden things going on there. Brian Jarvis says that Arctic Disaster was ATO. Okay, got it. That makes more sense, actually. That Leyte Gulf game is worth a bundle, too. I'll tell you what, man. I spilled some pipe sealant when we were doing the plumbing yesterday, and I can still smell it down here. And I wasn't even in this room. I can still smell it, and I'm annoyed. There's a lot of interesting things that ATO has done over the years. Ooh, War in the Ice. I've never played that. I've never really even looked at that, to be honest. I kind of like to see it now that it has been mentioned. So, many people in the chat are expressing thoughts and prayers to Brian Yaus and his family for his upcoming medical procedures. All right, how are we doing on time? All right, we're gonna, the trajectory at this point is we're heading to wrap the show up here, folks. So, I'm gonna continue to make some technical adjustments. You might see some test live streams, which maybe I'll hang around and talk for 10 minutes about something over the next week or two as I experiment with different functionality. So just so you know that that's coming. I'd also have a couple of RPG videos that I'd really like to get edited, but are not edited yet. But what is edited is this week's unboxing video, which is the brand new version of Ace of Aces from Mayfair Games and Mr. B Games, which is a really nice little package. It's a really nice little package. So stay tuned for that. That'll be out at Thursday at the usual time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We're on daylight time at this point. I'd also like to offer my congratulations to Fucko. The legend himself is engaged and will be soon married to a woman of enormous patience. Enormous patience to put up with that. I'm gonna, as soon as they're actually officially married, I will be composing a letter to His Holiness the Pope, supporting her petition for sainthood. It will be necessary. Mark, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, Jeff Beeler mentions head over to the MMP YouTube channel. The MMP has a YouTube channel. They do shows all the time. Do head over there and let Brian know that you're hoping for a speedy recovery and no complications whatsoever. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the new Ace of Aces. This is the one that I'll play. I'll actually get this played at some point. I have no immediate plans to do so. And it's going to probably need to wait for a convention because it is not the kind of thing that I'm going to try and do myself solitaire. It's just not. It's not my bag for solitaire stuff. But at a convention, yeah, I'll do that 100%. And it looks pretty cool, so check it out on Thursday. And then next week we have an unboxing of, and again, this is already lined up. Don't worry about it. It will be out next Thursday. The feature unboxing of the week is going to be Christoph. No problem. Just keep in mind that I want to avoid certain specific topics that we are. It's just going to cause friction in the chat, on the channel, in the comments, on the Discord, and I don't want to deal with it. I've got my opinions. Those are strongly held opinions, and those of you who have seen me express those opinions in the past will know what those opinions are. But I want to distance my opinions from the show and the content and the good time that we all have here on each and every week. So, oh, good call. Jeff Beeler mentions, don't do it while driving. You are not allowed to play Ace of Aces while driving, but the passengers in your car absolutely can play Ace of Aces, no problem. I want to say the answer to the question of whether they included rotary and powerhouse aircraft. I think so, but I'm a little unclear as to how exactly that breaks down. In any event, we'll see it on Thursday. And then next week we've got La Bataille de Wavre, which is the new expansion for... It's complicated. Watch the video and you'll understand what it is expanding. So we are a forgiving environment and community here at Ardwulf's Lair. So we'll work with you to be a member of this community. But if you've decided that your opinion, not that Christoph has done this, that is not the case. And nobody has done that. And in fact, nobody has done this in a very long time. If it's creating friction, that's the problem. So stay away from that. So, folks, it's been a great show. We'll let you go for the evening. We will be back next week, next Sunday evening with the Chit Show with our very special guest, Mr. John Krantz, who we will be delighted to talk to about a variety of things, including Consim World Expo, and the relaunch of Consim Games, which will be happening very soon. And I'm very excited about a couple of the things that are lined up from Consim Games, too. So everybody have a great rest of the evening. We'll see you all again soon. Let's hope the outro works. Are we out?